Drug trouble has stricken the doorsteps of hip-hop's troubled man, Clifford T.I. Harris. The three additional women have stepped forward to accuse the rapper and his wife Tamika Tiny Harris of sexual impropriety and assault. The women have hired the attorney Tyrone A. Blackburn to represent their collective interests. The firm's spokesman shared that he was in conversations with the investigators from multiple jurisdictions to pursue criminal charges. One woman claims that once the two stars on VH1's The Family Hustle reality show pulled out a pill and forced her to swallow it. She further alleges that their security took her phone while the three were in South Beach hotel room. Then, the Whatever You Like rapper forced her to take a powdered substance from his finger. She continues her account by saying Tiny undressed her and proceeded to engage in sexual intercourse. She said her body was numb, the room was slowing down, and she could not consent. Her story is like one of the other women who have recently come forward. The difference is that in her account, another man was involved, and she flat out accuses them of drugging and raping. The third woman reports that she was drugged and assaulted across 3 different states: Nevada, California, and Florida. The couple strongly denies the claims, but with the allegations of rape, kidnapping, and drugging, and preparing to defend themselves legally. Their legal representation released a statement on behalf of the celebrity A-listers. My client's position remains the same. We're still waiting for the anonymous accusers to reveal themselves to the public and the Harrises. Their continued unwillingness and refusal to do so compromises and undermines every single allegation being made. Now, that was one of the articles that I saw on the internet, and they popped up maybe a day ago. Today is April 6, 2021, and articles like this have actually started to pop up over the course of the last few days, right? So again, I'm trying to do these videos in a more balanced approach because, people are coming out and they're accusing me of bashing victims. And that's not my intentions, right? My intentions is not to bash victims. On the same token, I think it's hard to accept some of this when there's clearly, from my perspective, some foul play at hand. And one of the things that I see happening, I said it over and over and over and over and over again, is that this is the Bill Cosby playbook, whereby you accuse a person in public and you drag them through social media, and you maintain this assault of constantly adding new alleged victims to come forward, and you're constantly alleging these new allegations, and then you constantly bring up other suits like the Sabrina Peterson's lawsuit for defamation of character. Now, of course, another problem with all of this is that you have the secret witness. And everyone knows the American culture has this thing called a Confrontation Clause. Well, that's actually a law. It's a constitutional protection, which is to protect individuals from essentially having secret witnesses brought against them, right? There are some exceptions to that when you want to protect the witnesses. So in this case, there could be an issue where they are saying that these witnesses are not revealing their identities because they fear that they would be attacked by T.I. and Tiny. That's certainly an implication that they're pressing by keeping the witnesses secret, but that could be an allegation that would come out in the trial, if a trial is to happen as well. So it also creates a problem because it, as the article points out, it undermines the allegations, because no one should have the ability to sit and hide in the dark and make all these secret allegations without revealing the individual who actually are making these allegations, and to have that individual confronted. That's why it's a constitutional protection, because it keeps people from being unlawfully arrested. It keeps people from being unlawfully prosecuted, and that's essentially why it's there in the first place. So we have something called the Confrontation Clause, which, if you look up above, there should be a link on the video that I've done about the Confrontation Clause. But the Confrontation Clause isn't just for court. it should be a tool that we use in our everyday society, whereby we question the allegations and we want to see the person that's actually making these allegations, so we can, as a general public, determine whether or not these allegations are legitimate or whether or not they're, nonsense. And in effect, you're keeping that person in the media until there's this public pressure, so to speak, that almost forces the authorities to act. Like, it just forces the authorities' hand. So we've seen that in Bill Cosby, we've seen that in R. Kelly's case, and we're seeing it now here. Now, with that said, and to be more balanced, we don't know if T.I. and Tiny are in fact guilty of sexual assault. They very well could be. They very well could be guilty of sexual assault, and this is just simply a tactic that the lawyers are using to bring them to justice. Now, my problem with all this is that it's improper, and you're effectively persecuting them in the media, right? To number one, you're forcing the authorities' hand, whereby if the authorities actually had something in the beginning, they would have prosecuted on it. And then second, you're kind of encouraging people to jump on the bandwagon. Now, people are saying all these women are coming forward and they don't know each other, so it must be true. Well, I'm going to say that that's really not necessarily the case, and just because you have multiple people coming forward, that is not an indication that the allegations are true. And I'm here to tell you that. And like I said, this has, my perspective on that has nothing to do with T.I., and it has nothing to do with the victims. I just know that people lie. I learned early on in life that people lie. People lie. And what's even more pressing is that people will get together and lie in order to destroy you. I'll give you two examples, right? Two personal examples that I've experienced. One example is, I think I was maybe in my late 20s, and I'm a naive, type of cat. Sometimes I'm pretty much a simpleton, and I was working in an environment where there was lots of opportunity. There wasn't a lot. I guess I shouldn't say lots of opportunity, but there was opportunity, right? And I was diligently working to take advantage of a lot of opportunities, but it just so happened the opportunities that I wanted conflicted with what another person wanted. So we were both going after the same thing. The difference between that person and myself is that the other person had more friends in the department we were working in. So what he did is that he got all of his friends to basically make up a lot of lies about my performance, and make up a lot of lies about how well I knew the subject matter on the job. And it was amazing to me, because this guy just went out of his way to make up he fabricated a lot of nonsense stories just to pretty much destroy me, to prevent me from taking advantage of opportunities. And the hate in that situation was so thick, is that even though he got the opportunity before I got it, right, he continued to try to oppress me for no reason. I don't even know what problem the guy had with me, and I kind of know what it is, but I don't really want to throw it out there. But he just had a problem with who I was. Now, this was it was partly racially motivated, and it was really just partly based on religion, right? So there's a racial aspect and there's a religious aspect. This dude was coming after me, and he was doing everything that he could to try to tarnish my image and tarnish my reputation. But the killing part of that is that he used his friends, or he used people in the department, to jump on the bandwagon and make up all these lies. And some of the people that came forth and told some of these lies, They didn't necessarily do it because they didn't like me, or they didn't necessarily do it because they were his friends. They did it because, they were under some sort of pressure, right? So that's just one story of how people can band together, jump on the bandwagon, and essentially destroy a person, right? Or attack one individual. Now, another instance of people, and this one is probably going to be more relevant to the subject matter at hand. Another experience I had this experience early on. I was a kid. I had to have been no more than 8 or something like that, maybe 7, but I remember a lot of details about this incident. I was on a playground, and while I'm on the playground, I noticed that, there was a crowd, and the crowd was kind of gathered, the crowd of kids, rather, was gathered off on the side. And the way the playground was basically structured is that you would have the entrance and exit to the actual school building, and then if you step out maybe 20 feet, there was kind of a left side, which I'll just call a blind side, of where you couldn't see anything from the entrance. So when they would let the children out for the playgrounds, they would leave the doors open, and then there was supposed to have been someone out on the playground attending the children. And it just so happened that maybe the person who was responsible for attending the children wasn't really paying attention, or wasn't even there. I can't remember who was actually there, if anyone was there. But what I do remember, off on the blind spot, there was kind of like this crowd forming. So I'm like looking at the crowd, trying to figure out what was going on. I go up to the crowd, and I noticed that there were like 5 or 6 boys kind of molesting a girl, right? They were, grabbing on her, they were feeling on her, private parts, and, they were humping on her, so on and so forth, right? Crazy things that, little kids do when they think no one's watching. So I see this, and then, I didn't say anything. So what ends up happening is that recess is finished, and we go back to school, and right away I hear people being called down to the office. So people are being called down to the office, and it's obvious to everybody at that point that it's because of the incident that happened outside. And then all of a sudden I hear them call my name. I'm like, why are they calling me? I didn't have anything to do with this. So I go down to the principal's office, and I'll never forget this. I go down to the principal's office, and she basically confronts me, and I'm pretty much ambushed. She goes, every child has basically told me that you raped, this, young lady. And I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? I had nothing to do with any of that stuff. And I named the people who were actually involved at the time, but it just so happened that the people who were involved, they were children of prominence. They were children of parents who had a lot of pull with the school. They were, even the people who were actually involved in this they were really popular, right? All the other kids feared them. So the problem with this situation is that, number one, the kids that actually did this were actually feared. They were actually feared in the school, and the family of the kids that actually did this were actually feared. And what I believe happened is that basically the kids who actually did this somehow convinced all the other children to say that it was me. And because of that, you had kids constantly coming forward saying, yeah, he did it. I saw him do it with my own eyes. And then they went and started to describe the details of the assault that I never really actually committed and I was never involved in. But basically they described the details of what they actually did. And, they blamed it all on me. So as a result of this, I was actually suspended from school. And when I got home, I got whoopings almost every day for like 2 weeks. Because my mom, she really hated, the allegations, and she wanted to make sure that I knew that, this was not acceptable. So she basically beat me every day for 2 weeks. And I never, brought this back up to her, but, she never believed me. Nobody believed me because of the allegations that came out. At this point, by the time it got to my mom, you had the principal kind of signing off on everything because the principal felt that, she did her investigation. And then you had all these other children signing off on, the allegations. So I was pretty much just convicted, basically by word of mouth. And even if we had like an official trial, I'm not sure that I would have survived it, because you had too many witnesses coming forward saying the same thing, right? So I honestly kind of think that in hindsight, maybe the principal had something to do with it, because she should have known that those children were lying. And I'm thinking that there was probably some type of improper relationship with the principal, right? But I'll never forget this incident that happened to me. I learned early on in life that people will band together to destroy you. If not for any other reason, they'll do it simply because they don't like you, right? They don't need a reason to destroy you. So that's why when you look at, this situation with these people coming forward against these celebrities, a lot of times I think we have to be careful of what we accept as assault, because if we don't, we could possibly end up as a society destroying the lives of people who are essentially innocent. Now, with that being said, I don't know whether T.I. and Tiny are innocent or not. I have the slightest idea. I'm not going to even pretend that I know. The only thing that I'm saying is that, people just be careful of these allegations that are coming out. I support the Me Too movement. I don't condone abusing women. I don't condone drugging women. I definitely don't condone raping women. So if you've come to this channel and you feel as if I'm actually doing that, definitely leave your comments below. And, I'll try to do better with, a lot of these videos that I make. But again, you can't win for losing with, making a lot of these videos. If you come out and you say and you support the defendants, then people are going to accuse you of, bashing victims. And then if you come out and you support the victims, then people are going to accuse you of unnecessarily supporting lies and supporting false allegations. So you can't really win for losing on a lot of these videos. But all I'm going to say, and I'm going to wrap this video up, is that, again, this just appears to be a part of the playbook. They're going to have lots of people come forward, and we don't know at this point if the allegations are just being fabricated, and we don't know if people are jumping on to the bandwagon, because I personally believe that T.I. and Tiny, they have a wild adult life, and I think that because of their adult life, that leaves room for people to come out and make up these stories, right? They've had encounters, or may have had encounters, with T.I. and Tiny, and those encounters may have been consensual. But now that there's an opportunity to get a bag, they're like, wait a minute, perhaps I was assaulted, perhaps I was abused. Let me rethink or rewrite my story so that I can get paid. I think that's a lot of what's going on here. But on the same token, there are some very serious allegations of T.I. and Tiny, of which they could actually be guilty of, right? I think in the video series that I did with it, I think it's called It's Over for T.I. and Tiny, there's a couple of stories in there. I think it was part 3. There's a couple of stories in there where I go over the lawsuit against them, where they could be in fact guilty. I think there's a chance that they could be guilty, like especially the one story with the 17-year-old intern that's on the bus. She slipped 2 pills, and then after she slipped 2 pills, no, I think she's given a drink, and then after the drink she feels sick, and then she slipped 2 pills, and then from there she ends up with her rear end not working, and she goes to the hospital, and they said, yeah, you had too much penetration, and therefore you can't hold your stool or whatever, right? So that was a little disconcerting to me, and to me it seems like there's going to be facts in that case. For example, she probably did go to the hospital, right? So that's going to be a fact, and the hospitals are going to have records of that. I don't know if the hospital would have done a drug test, but if they would have, there would be records of that. Then you line that up with the fact that T.I. and Tiny actually did go on a tour, or they went on some type of adventure that involved the bus, right? So that's going to be a fact. So there are some real concerns for T.I. and Tiny, and like I said, I'm not saying that they're not guilty. I don't know whether they're guilty or not. What I do know is some of this stuff feels a little suspect to me. The allegations that have come out, some of them are just sound ridiculous, and then some of them do sound legitimate, like the one that I just spoke about. But I think Sabrina Peterson spearheading all of this makes it a little suspect as well, because of the relationship between Hannah Kane and T.I. and the fact that they've all fallen out. It just makes it look like she's just hating and she's trying to destroy T.I. and Tiny. That's what it's looked like. But the reality of it is that no one knows whether or not they're actually guilty. The only thing that's going to determine that is a trial. So if there is in fact evidence, I think that the police should charge them now, instead of waiting for, and instead of having a situation where you're constantly waiting for more people to come forward and you're trying to build this story up, because then it's just going to look like a witch hunt. If you have actual evidence, charge them. My personal opinion, if they had any solid evidence, they would have charged them a long time ago. And the reason I say this is because from my experience with the authorities, they don't hesitate. They don't hesitate to lock you up on, a hint of evidence. They don't hesitate. So maybe they're being a little careful because T.I. and Tiny are celebrities. They have money, they have pull, and a failed investigation could potentially backfire on the authorities. So maybe that could have something to do with it. I don't know. What is the reason that you guys think that they haven't been charged already? Like, if these allegations are solid, what is taking the authorities so long to prosecute, right? To file charges? I think someone came to my page and said, well, they're investigating them now. Well, again, I get that. I get that you have these allegations so that there's an investigation. But if the allegations were solid to begin with, there'd be no need for an investigation, because you can arrest them on what you have, right? If it's solid, you nail them on what you have, right? So you guys let me know, what is the reason for the delay of the charges being filed? What is the reason for the delay for them not being prosecuted? Is it because they're doing an investigation? And do you agree with me that if they had something solid, they would have arrested these people by now? Or do you think that, maybe T.I. and Tiny are just too powerful and they're kind of wrapped up in this conspiracy theory stuff, where people are saying that they're going through a humiliation ritual and it's the Illuminati and all this other type of stuff? Do you think all of this is being controlled by some unforeseen hand? Let me know. Questions and comments below. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.